Colombia is kind of strange because it's very regionalistic. Like its departments, or like its states, its cities differ from each other, but they really, really identify by department to the point where they'll have food in one department or one part of the country that you can't get in the other part. Like I served my whole mission in Medellin, like the actual city, or in the coast. And there was food that I'd eat when I was in the coast that I would not eat when I was in Medellin, and vice versa, because they're different people. In Medellin, they have this. It's pretty like they feed you a lot of lentils. They feed you a lot of lentejas, a lot of rice. A lot of times you'll get like rice, like chicken, and they never give you water, ever. They give you juice, which is the best thing that's ever happened to me. They give you amazing juice there. Since like Colombia's like the land bountiful, everything grows there except like really cold berries, right? Berries that grow like in Canada. So it's really, really cheap, and they just make juice all the time. That's what's with every meal. And that's like what was my favorite part. And they make it fresh. Like they don't use juicers. I learned how to use a blender there. That's how they make everything. So in Medellin, they'll give you like a juice. The typical platters call this. It's like a bandeja. It's a platter. Bandeja paisa. So the paisa platter. Paisa is like, it's the name of the people. Like we'll say like the north. The Northeast, we'll call them Yankees, right? That's just like the name of the people that live in Medellin. They're called paisa. So they have the paisa platter. And it will take like a plantain, a ripe plantain, and they'll fry it. Rice, beans, avocado, a fried egg, and this thing called chicharrón, which is basically a giant strip of bacon that they deep fry. I know, it's good. And sometimes like sausages, like chorizo, it's like a bratwurst kind of thing. But that's like the bandeja paisa. And they'll put that like just a big platter in front of you. And that's like the typical thing out there. And then also in Medellin, they have these things called arepas, which are like tortillas, but they're like thicker. They're not thin like tortillas. They're just corn made into like a patty, and they make them ad nauseum. Like for breakfast, everybody has these like little things that like it's just a little circle thing with holes in it, and you just stick it over the stove, and you cook your arepa in the morning, and then you like put butter on it and like tomatoes, and they have like really weird cheese there. It's all white. They don't like make yellow cheese, so they just like have this. They call it quesito, like little cheese, but it's kind of like feta, but not like it's like a feta mozzarella mix. I don't know how they make it or where to find it else in the world, but then I'd stick that on there with tomatoes. It's like a perfect breakfast meal. Or they'll like scramble a ton of eggs, and they'll stick it on the arepa, and you'll eat that. Or like at some of like the fast food places, they'll stuff it. They'll cut the arepa open and they'll stuff it with meat and corn and some other stuff. So that was like Medellin. Medellin's food was pretty good, but the best food in the whole mission was in the coast. So in the coast, they feed you different stuff. They make, first of all, it's called arroz con coco, which is like rice with cocoa, like with coconut. I'm not sure how they make it, whether they just cook it in like the juice or if they like use like real coconut, like meat and stuff like that. But it's like sweet rice, and it's so good. And then they have different fruits down there, so they like make you different fruits. One of them's like a guava, you know, we all think about it as pink. Well, they have one that's like green and white. And then they'll make you a juice because it grows everywhere. So they'll just pick it off the tree and make you a juice. And then they make these things called patacones, which are, they take plantain, but it's not ripe. It's green. And then they'll cut it open and they'll fry it. Like they'll fry it a little bit and then they'll pull it out and they'll smash it. Or they'll cut it up and like fry bits of it and then they'll pull those out and they'll smash them. And so like plasters out and then they refry that and they become like chips. And they're incredible. Patacones, they're like my favorite. You put a little bit of salt on them or guacamole. It's like the best. And then my favorite thing that they do in the coast is they take a whole fish, like eyeball, fins and all, and then just deep fry it. The whole thing. And it's so good. Like fish fins, deep fried fish fins, they're like chips. They're really good. And like I went to like a house way out in the middle of nowhere in the coast, and she was like just making like a fire, like they had like a concrete like camp stove looking thing, and she was just making a fire below it to cook our meal. And they just had this like 2 fish sitting like this kind of dirty bloody water. And I was like, I don't know what's happening here. And she just like pulled out a bunch of oil and fried it, and that was the best fish I've ever had. It takes a lot of work to eat because you have to get through everything, but it was so good. And then just the fruit. The fruit's amazing. Like, there's this one place where this guy would walk by my house every day saying, papaya, papaya, a mil, a mil, a mil. And so he'd sell a papaya for 50 cents. So you'd buy a papaya. And it's like, you just cut it up, and I'd buy like a watermelon for like $3. Like a big good watermelon. I'd just eat that for like a couple of weeks. Or I'd buy mangoes. Or when in the coast, mango trees are like oak trees. They just grow everywhere. They just fall off the trees. You can't even gather them all. So mangoes are dirt cheap. And you can just eat a mango wherever. And they're so good because they ripen on the tree. And then they have weird fruit. Like there's this one called mamon. It's like a green grape. But you don't like eat it. You like take it and then you like break it and it pops open. Like it bursts the skin, and then it has a seed on the inside with all like the fruit that's like around it, and then you just suck it. And you clean the seed off and you spit the seed out, and then you go on to the next one. Some really good fruit. That was my favorite part. You could get any good fruit there. In the coast, they have like some cheese that it was one of those things that you couldn't get. Like you could get in Medellin, but for like huge prices. It was really expensive. It's called queso costeño, like coast cheese. And I've seen people like out in the square. They just have like a scale, like an old scale, and just like a block of cheese. I mean, like this big, just sitting out there in the heat. It's hot, and the thing doesn't melt. It doesn't melt. Doesn't even like change shape. It squeaks when you eat it. Like you're eating it. It's like on your teeth. But it was like really good cheese. I think they made it just from the pure cream. Like they didn't even bother with the milk. But it was like you could only really get it in the coast because of missionaries. We couldn't really afford it in Medellin. And like they'd make soups with it. It's like one called Monte de Queso. And it's like this cream of something soup, but it has all these chunks of cheese in it. Queso costeño. So you're like fishing them out. It squeaks.